topic of the hour. Hunter Biden expected to testify this upcoming Wednesday before the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees on the Biden family business deals. His former business partner, Jason Galanis, testified on Friday that then Vice President Joe Biden was allegedly considering joining the board of the Chinese Communist Party-linked venture that his son created. I spoke with House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer on Sunday Morning Futures yesterday. He told me the family used the same structure over and over again, promising Joe Biden equity and a potential seat on the board, from healthcare company Americore to Chinese energy company CEFC. Watch.
With respect to Galanis, the individual we interviewed this past Friday, what we learned was very similar to what Tony Bobulinski said, that he was familiar with the CEFC deal. He knew that Joe Biden played an integral role in helping set this up, that this deal was set up when Joe Biden was vice president, and that they believed, the Chinese believed, that Joe Biden was going to be an equity owner in this, just like what we saw with Americore Health. This is how the Bidens sold the brand. They didn't just use Joe Biden as a crutch. They used Joe Biden as a potential board member, as a potential equity owner, and that's how they were able to receive tens of millions of dollars from our enemies around the world.
So disturbing. Liz Peek, Politico out with a very good piece on the Americore deal that James Biden set up. And Politico writes this: Jim Biden spoke of plans to give his brother equity in Americore, according to one former Americore executive, and install him on the board, according to a second source. He also said that if Americore could find a winning business model for rural health care, his brother could promote the company in a future presidential campaign. Because, Liz, remember, in the final year of the Obama administration, Joe's portfolio grew to include health care and this effort to cure cancer.
Yeah, isn't that just an amazing coincidence, Maria? Look, this is a family of grifters, and I think the American people are pretty much onto this. What's really horrifying to me is there a single Democrat out there or a single left-leaning media organization that is willing to say, you know what, this really is not great. It does look like the president was selling influence. There really were tens of millions of dollars that flowed. And the fact that they want to just ignore it, dismiss it, and claim that none of this happened is horrifying. Tony Bobulinski is a totally credible guy who came out before the 2020 election and made a lot of these claims. The FBI never got in touch with him. They never followed up on any of his testimony. This is extraordinary. And look, it just goes to show that we need to take the top level of the FBI and basically fire them all. I hope Donald Trump does exactly that when he becomes president.
Yeah, I think you're right. That is also something that is so bothersome to me. The fact that Democrats on the committee are just playing politics with all of this. Yeah. They won't just acknowledge what we all see in front of us. And we should all agree that this is a national security threat. But instead, they're playing politics, talking about Russia collusion 2.0. I mean, House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan told me yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures that he doesn't think the president's brother, Jim Biden, was necessarily square with us during last week's closed-door interview. He suggested perjury. Watch this.
Well, my big takeaway from Jim Biden's interview is who you going to believe? Jim Biden, who multiple times has changed his story. Jim Biden, who had multiple business ventures that failed. Jim Biden, who had multiple people he still owes hundreds of thousands of dollars to. Or Tony Bobulinski, whose story has not changed, who's been a successful business guy, and who came forward and said certain things that Jim Biden just totally disagreed with. Jim Biden said that Hunter Biden that Joe Biden never met with Tony Bobulinski. Tony Bobulinski has said that for 4 years and been forward about that. So I don't think Jim Biden was necessarily square with us in this interview. And as Chairman Comer mentioned, that's why the staff is going back through the transcript and figuring out exactly what he said and where that disagrees with what we know to be true.
That would be another issue if, in fact, this is perjury, Cheryl.
Well, exactly, and that's why this Wednesday testimony of Hunter Biden is going to be so critical, because now what Comer and Jordan have done is they worked closely together, as they did with you on that interview yesterday morning on Sunday Morning Futures, to come up with the next leg. They're being very methodical. They're being very careful. You know, Galanis, a little bit of a problem because obviously his testimony came from prison. At the same time, Bobulinski has never changed his story to Liz's Liz's point. And also, I have to say, sometimes I've wondered if Joe Biden, because he just doesn't remember that he met with Bob Alinsky in 2017. I know that's kind of cruel to say, but I'm sorry. But after what I've seen this year, that's a fair question. Of course, Jim Biden is trying to be careful because he knows that he is in the spotlight now, and he wants to make sure that he doesn't either A, lose money, or B, go to jail.
Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes to Jim Biden, I mean, I have no confidence that he's going to be square with anyone. He's been at the helm of this Biden crime family, Biden influence peddling scheme for way longer than Hunter was even involved. Jim's been, kind of taking the lead on that. Remember the loan repayments? I mean, that was obviously one of the big issues that we've talked about recently. But to both Cheryl and Liz's points, I mean, we heard all this from Tony Bobolinsky like 3-4 years ago. Then Devin Archer confirmed the same stuff. So it's just becoming more and more clear to me that President Biden's involvement in all of this stuff was even more substantial than I initially thought, that I think a lot of people initially thought. I mean, look, obviously, he was the brand in all of these deals. He offered political access to the United States. And the fact that he was offered potentially an equity position, like that's above and beyond right there.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing for sure.